Hello, investors. This is Ted Zhang, portfolio manager at Revere Asset Management. Today is Thursday, November 6th, 4:51 p.m., coming to you from New York City. Looking at the growth action gauge, we are definitely seeing some deteriorating action across the board. Market leaders, solid neutral, are seeing a yellow sub arrow to turn to neutral as we are starting to see some cracks in leaders and stocks in the market. Short-term RSP mid caps living below the short-term 21 EMA. And today we just got our first close below the 21 EMA for the Nasdaq and S&P 500. If we get a second close below, the arrow definitely shifts to neutral and eventually down to red. Medium-term RSP mid caps below the 50 days well. And now the S&P and Nasdaq are also starting to flirt with the 50-day moving average with the small caps closing below today as well. So we have a neutral yellow sub arrow there as well. Long term, all major indexes still above the 200-day moving average. So the long-term trend is still intact. And we saw the fourth green arrow there. What happened today? Weakness on Jensen comments, and his comments were about China winning the AI race because of US regulations and government shutdown fears as well, as this government shutdown is now extending to become the longest in history. And we're really starting to see some disruptions, especially in air travel and SNAP benefits. 21 over 21 list down 3.13%, six stocks up, one neutral, 14 down. Turbo 12 down 5.67%, two stocks up, zero neutral, 10 down. Big 8 down 1.84%, RJ down 2.41%, S&P 500 down 1.12%, RSP down 0.7%, the Qs down 1.86%, QQW down 1.68%, Dow Jones down 0.84%, mid-caps down 0.93%, Russell down 1.86%, and global 60/40 equities bonds down 0.52%. GROTECTION down 1.58%, and Turbo down 1.66%. Jumping right into the charts, as always, give me 1 second. Sorry, give me 1 second. Where did the charts go? Right here. Starting off, as always, with the S&P 500. When we take a look at this, 2 days ago, we closed at 21. Yesterday, bounced, but today we broke this horizontal level and the 21 EMA closing below with elevated volume. We did have this characteristic called the Hindenburg omen, which is when we are in uptrend above the 50-day, and at the same time, we see a large number of new highs and new lows, which is more than greater than or equal to 2 to 3% of the total issues of the New York Stock Exchange and Nasdaq. And then you have new lows greater than or equal to 2 times that of new highs. And finally, you have the McClellan oscillator negative as well. We've had that, and historically in the past, that has been a potential sign of a larger correction as well. So far, there's a failed breakout closing below the 821. RSP, even weaker, living below the 821.50. This looks like a potential breakdown here looking to happen. 200 days just below. The Qs also closed below 8 and 21, as well as closing below the Trump tariff high as well on a large volume. This looks like a 50-day test is likely going to happen at $600. QQW closes below the 50-day moving average and below the 821 EMA as well. The Dow Jones closed below 821. You can see the theme. Big closes below our short-term trend gauge, which is the 21 EMA. Mid caps living below, like the RSP, the 821.50, and then small caps, Russell, closing below the 50-day moving average again and making another lower low. You are starting to have this rounded top here. This is potentially looking to be a triple top, breaking the 10-week and this upper trend line as well. See that right here. So not looking good for small caps either as rates rise. VIX looking a little bullish as well. Was at 1 point above 20, but closed right below at 19.5. That is still quite elevated. And the S&P ATR is 1.21% right now. So that's definitely quite volatile. The dollar so far fails at the 100 undercut reclaim. And who knows, maybe the dollar falls lower as well. But this will be interesting to see as well. Gold living below 821 now, potentially bear flagging. Uh, if we break down, 50-day test is completely reasonable. Silver, just right at the 821, building this sort of flag look. Volume has dried up completely with the 50-day catching up. Just in a range right now, nothing too significant. Bitcoin, another close below the 200-day moving average. This is looking quite poor now and looking for a weekly close below the 40-week moving average as well. And this all started with a failed breakout above 70. And after that, it was starting to look quite dire with a huge flush down, lower high, bear flag, and continue lower now. Bonds also pulled back as rates have been rising since the Fed cut, where Powell said it's not a foregone conclusion that December FOMC will have a rate cut. And then there's just also worries about um, Trump tariffs being ruled against by Congress that will instantly raise the deficit, as we have been seeing some tariff revenue generated for the government to pay down some of our debt and reduce the deficit. So that income source or revenue source will decrease or be eliminated if the Supreme Court were to rule against it. We're also seeing economic data robust in terms of labor market and inflation, although we are seeing some cracks in the labor market with job openings, and that's reflected in many consumer stocks as well in terms of the economy, as well as payroll names like ADP and TriNet. TLT about the same action, closed right at the 50-day, and looking at the rates, they've been rising since FOMC. So that being said, that is it for the intrasset correlation. And now on to the tail of the tape. Today, decent amount of changes. First one is talk about the VIX. CNN fear greed down to 24 at extreme fear. AAII bulls dropped 2 to 38%. Bears pretty much stayed the same at 36%, while neutral increased to 25.8. NAM dropped 10 points from 100 to 90. That's still quite elevated. We're almost operating in the bear case soon if we have a sustained break below the 21 EMA, if we don't reclaim that soon. News, Jensen, like I said, talked about China winning the AI race because of less regulations. We had a mixed group of earnings as well. We can cover some of those in a second. And then FAA reduced their flight capacity by 10% because of the government shutdown. And the news was we'll cut flight capacity by 10% at 40 major airports because of the government shutdown. And that job cuts in October, about 153,000, reached their highest level for any October since 2003. So that might have scared the markets a little bit as well. In terms of earnings, let's go check some out. Let's go over a few. DoorDash is another consumer name, down 17% today on earnings on massive volume. Elp, another consumer name, down 35%. You had Lyft up 5.8%, which is one of the stronger ones. Figma is up 4.5%, beat by 5 cents, beat on revenues. Lyft again, revenues in line, but their gross bookings were higher. And then for DoorDash, they missed on revenues and or earnings. Hood reported earnings as well, but down 11%, beat by 7 cents, beat on revenues. Snapchat was up at 1.20%, but closed up 10%. Cohere was strong as well in the group with Light, these optical components for data centers, up 18% on earnings, 73% year-over-year beat. Datadog was up 23% on 20% growth. Duolingo was down 25%, another consumer name. Some other news I want to share. Google unveiled a project called Project Starcatcher, which pretty much is a research project exploring the use of solar satellites equipped with its AI chips for running AI workloads. Continue on. Well, the keys coming in today, we're watching the S&P versus the A&21. We closed below both. The Qs versus the A&21, we closed below both. And then the Russell versus 21 and 50 closed below both as well. Day count, up one, the down one. 3 days below the 8 EMA, 1 day below the 21 EMA. Really just almost a trend down day today. S&P ATR rises to 1.21%. Really, ever since this increased above 1, it's been a much harder market, much choppier. Strong sectors, bonds were up, energy, healthcare. China actually showed RS in oil and gas. Dollar was down, 50 was down, IBD 50, uranium, RK, Bitcoin, and semis. In GROTECTION today, we sold CCJ, Palantir, and trimmed SoFi and trimmed SSO and Hood, 1.06 beta, 4% open heat. In Turbo, we sold SSO, trimmed Tesla, Amazon, SoFi, and we ended up day trading CRDO as that completely reversed on us. Bottom line is weakness on Jensen comments and government shutdown fears. So let's go over the actions in the portfolios. CCJ gapped up on that $80 billion news with Brookfield and the government, completely has broken the gap day low and the 21 EMA, so we decided to get rid of it. Palantir filled breakout after earnings, just on triple-digit earnings, huge guidance raise, just filled in. This is 9 earnings in a row now, huge move, and this might be it for Palantir for the cycle. Outside reversal on volume on the week after great earnings report, closing below the 50, potentially a trip to the 200-day moving average now. We also sold SoFi, huge outside reversal after trying to poke its head out, moving below the 50. Then we trimmed SSO because of the S&P 500 closing below the 821, and then Hood and GROTECTION breaking 821, and yesterday's lows as well. In Turbo, we did SSO as well, sold that because of the reasons about the S&P. We trimmed Tesla when it broke 440. That was part of the trim or part of our stop on these new ads. Amazon just took out yesterday's lows on upside reversal, trimmed that off. SoFi, same thing as Grow, and then CRDO, outside reversal as well. You can see it looked great coming on this 5-minute flag when it was breaking above its left side peak, but just rejected, closed below the 8 and outside reversal. These triple-digit earnings and triple-digit revenue growth doesn't really matter when the market health is just against us. And at this point, Credo's a $28 billion market cap, which is just some amazing moves. Because I remember touching this name in the $20 area as well. Just amazing to see. Wow. Continue on. Tomorrow's Friday's keys, S&P versus 21 and 50, the Qs versus 21 and 50, and then Russell versus 21 and 50. Now, to wrap up the video, we'll talk about the 21 over 21 list as always, as well as the Turbo 12. But first, I want to start with some charts of interest. S&TK beat on earnings and revenues and guided higher. Already a huge vertical move since about $60, 3x. And we'll gap it up 7.75% after hours. Tesla's currently up 2% after hours during the shareholder meeting, which is happening right now. Shareholders are voted on various proxy statements, various proposals, and Elon Musk's pay package. So we'll see if that goes through. Google showing RS as well, closing on the upper ranges of the day. XPEV, Chinese EV name, and humanoid robots name. Protecting this 25 area, so that remains key. Earnings in 11 days. Baba is another Chinese name. Finding support at the 50-day. Getting rejected by the 821, but still showing little RS today. And then Baidu up today as well, but closing at the lows of the day. In the 21 over 21 list, name that was up most was Light, but closed at the lows of the day. Really just a 40% move in short fashion, rejecting this 250 area. 511% year over year growth, just amazing. 3/4 triple digits, 58% revenue growth. NBB was up today, still closed at the lows of the range. GLW is pretty much flat, and then most names are down today. On the downside, Hood was down 11%. We sold that, breaking the 821 to 50. This still could be building higher lows, but if we take this out, I expect more pain later. SoFi down about 10% as well, outside reversal. WGMI just leaking off, closing below the 21 EMA as well. Herein has earnings after the close. It's up 7% on the earnings, so that's boosting WGMI a little bit. AMB leaks in after yesterday's upside reversal. Just really hard markets right now where we have one day markets reverse higher, the next day it fools you, just lays you back out. Palantir, another one, down 6.8%, breaking the 821 and 50. CRDO, outside reversal, closing below the 8. CCJ, closing below the 21. VRT, looking to close below 21, but still holding for now. NVIDIA is another one, breaking the 8 and 21. Tesla, closing right at the 21, breaking it at one point. CLS, still holding up really well, but if the way the market pulls in, I expect that as well. And then FSLR, nice tight inside day. The solar group has been really strong, perhaps on that Google news. You can see TAN, SEDG had a big reversal. Um, what else? CSIQ, Canadian Solar, just huge volume. Earnings in 7 days, but no earnings and barely any sales. Turbo 12, only two names are up. SECO, copper name, reclaiming the 8. That's really strong, building higher low still. TMBX was green today, forming this really tight range here after this earnings volatility. Triple digit earnings, 3 quarters in a row and accelerating. So that looks great. On the downside, herein was down 12%, but up 6.5%. After hours, TEM was down 12% on earnings. Geez, just broke to the downside, this flag, and these moves from 104 all the way to 70, they can come quick if you don't manage risk. SYM broke out and then fell back in, closing below the 821. AAOI breaking the 821 and closing below the 50. AVAV also leaks below, trying to form this flag, but when the markets are weak, setups don't really matter. It's going to fall to the pressures of the markets. KRMN, another drone name, breaking this upper trend line or upper channel. Not looking good either. A new base needs to form. ARCG also leaks below this flag that was being built. Can get above that left side peak. SNDK up after hours. These memory names continue to stay so strong. BE down 3.2% as well. Other memory names that were strong. MU continues to trend nicely. WDC, same thing after earnings, 137% growth. STX, 65% growth into highs. There's really just supply and demand imbalance here with memory, the data centers, and these hyperscalers need memory for their AI compute infrastructure. So with that being said, we're going to see what happens tomorrow. Definitely choppy markets. Government shutdown is the longest in history now. The economy is losing billions of dollars a day because of the absence of government subsidies and government spending. As we know, it's been at some of the highest levels. We're running a 7% deficit during peacetime, non-wartime, which is unheard of. So we'll wrap it up there and we'll be back with tomorrow's video. I'll be doing that one. Look forward to it. And with that being said, it's Thursday, November 6th. If you have any questions, you can email me at ted@revereasset.com. Twitter X is Ted H. Zhang. Phone is 855 Real Wealth. That is 855-732-5932. Website's revereasset.com. And we're also at Revere Asset on YouTube, X, Instagram, TikTok. And please like, share, subscribe if you enjoy our content. That being said, I'm going to wrap it up for today's video. This is Ted Zhang, Portfolio Manager at Revere Asset Management, telling it like it is. Thank you for listening and have a great rest of your week.